Presented by U Mobile.
Good morning, I'm Sharad Kuttan, and my guest on the Breakfast Grill this morning is Syahir Sulaiman, Head of Strategy for the Youth Wing of Parti Islam Se-Malaysia, affectionately known as PAS, one of the oldest political parties in modern Malaya. It was founded in 1951. You can be part of this conversation by tweeting us at BFM Radio, WhatsApping us at 018-789-8899. I have before me a very young man, very tall young man. So if you want to be a part of this conversation with him, please send your questions and comments in. Syahir, I want to begin with the larger vision of your party. I know you're from the Youth Wing, but I'm sure the Youth Wing, as the future of the party, also has a vision of where it wants to take Malaysia. Yeah. So this is the basic question. What vision of Malaysia does PAS want to promote?
Thanks, Sharad, and BFM for having me this morning. Regarding the vision for Malaysia, I guess as a political party and then the Islamist political movement, back in the history since 1951. So we have been very open to the democratic exercise, and we participate in the democratic process. And it's all about the betterment of the country and the betterment of the people. And by the name of the Islamist Party, so we believe in upholding the principle of Islam, and we believe that Islam is the solution and relevant to the country and to the people, and in the context of multiracial living in Malaysia. Yeah. Now,
to get more details on that vision, and you draw a rather broad vision there. Yeah. There are, of course, different examples of countries in the world that claim to be Islamic in nature. Some of them are theocratic, where you have clerics in governance in substantial ways. What model of Islamic state or a state that has Islam as its guiding principles do you envision?
Okay. First thing, most of the perception or perhaps the reality of the Muslim countries in the world are seen as backwards and all sort of negative connotation. But the challenge for Malaysia to become the model of the Islamic countries or the Muslim countries is by the nature of its multiracial kind of demographic canvas. And it's been in the Muslim world, Malaysia, Indonesia is seen as non-Arab countries. So, predominantly Muslim or Islam is pretty much dominated by the Arabs. But so we could see how non-Arabs or in a multiracial kind of demography can live in what Islam believes the right way of life.
Do you think that the ulama, the clerics, should have a role in governance? Should they have a role a la Iran, for instance?
That's the beauty of PAS. People say that we emulate the concept of leadership in Iran, where they have a circle of clerics that is somehow beyond the accountability and election. But we believe that it's a collective responsibility between the learned people in the country. By virtue of the ulama have the deep knowledge in Islam, and then it should be complement with the technocrats and professionals that is their mastery pretty much on the day-to-day kind of dealings. So, the connotation of ulama shouldn't be just prescribed to those have the mastery in Islamic studies. So, the ulama by definition is those who are knowledgeable. So, it could be those in the Islamic studies or the so-called secular kind of, engineering, economics, legal, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
I mean, but, okay, let's say personally, when you look out into the world from Malaysia, what are you excited by? Are you excited by Turkey, led by Erdogan, who also claims an Islamic mantle? Are you excited by Brunei, also, a country in the region that's imposed Sharia law there? What country do you see as a practical model for governance that yourself and PAS would like to emulate?
Okay, to be fair, among the Muslim countries, there are some advantages and some weaknesses in terms of the governance and best practices. We're talking about which model or which country should we emulate. Sadly to say that it's not the Muslim countries, but we might learn from the countries like Singapore, Japan, and they were even in the Europe. There was one quote by one of the prominent Muslim scholars back then, saying that yes, I can see Muslim in Muslim world, but I couldn't see Islam in the Muslim world. I can see non-Muslim in the Western, but I can see Islamic principles, values being practiced in the Western world.
Okay, I get you're kind of skirting my question, and let me focus on Brunei, for instance.
Okay.
And I do that because the Sultan of Brunei visited Kelantan some years ago, and Brunei has in fact said that it would extend support for the Kelantan government in terms of the implementation of hudud. What I believe it also comes from the Menteri Besar of Kelantan, who revealed that Brunei officials visited Kelantan in 2006 and studied Kelantan's hudud enactment. Is Brunei funding or supporting intellectually the push for hudud in Malaysia?
Not that I'm aware of, but I think for the case of Brunei and Aceh, actually, they came to learn the enactment of Sharia in Kelantan. So, the history for the enactment of the Sharia law in Kelantan since 1990 or 1991. So the idea of having the same Sharia kind of law in Brunei or in Aceh came much later. So it was Kelantan and Terengganu that started the adoption of the Sharia law in the modern world. Yeah.
Okay, so there, of course, the hudud issue and the Sharia court enactment. These were campaigns by by your party. The question of amendments to 355.
Yes.
The question is, again, the model that you want to follow. Brunei imposes Sharia on all, Muslims and non-Muslims. Is that what PAS wants? Is that what the youth wing is also promoting?
All this, we have to refer to the Quran and the debate by the jurists. Previously, the enactment of Sharia in Kelantan is open to Muslim and optional for non-Muslim if they want to be prescribed or to be charged or to be deliberated under the Sharia court. But the amendment of the enactment Kanun Jenayah Syariah Kelantan, as well as the proposed RUU 355, we excluded the non-Muslim. So it's pretty much Sharia matters and Muslim for Muslim. So,
but do you think that's practical? Could you have laws? Could you implement that in a practical sense?
Okay. To be fair, it's not only in Sharia or in the criminal law. We have what we call it, multiple or do we system kind of banking, marriage law, so on and so forth. So and then as an example, like during the fasting month, the Muslim should fast and shouldn't eat in public. But if we have a non-Muslim, our colleague in the office, go out for lunch break, and he might having lunch publicly, and then I'm as a Muslim not having the lunch publicly. But I mean, jurisdiction is clear that for Muslim you are subject to the Sharia law, and for the non-Muslim is not subject to the Sharia law.
Okay, and before I let you off on the question of the vision, there is this other aspect of Malaysia, apart from its multi-ethnic and multi-religious character, it's also a federation. Now, is your message something that could stick or is attractive in the territories of Sabah and Sarawak, for instance, where PAS has very little traction politically at this point in time? Do you intend, or your party intend, to have nationwide hudud laws enacted? Do you want Sharia for the entire federation, including Sabah and Sarawak? And what do you think is going to be the response in Sabah and Sarawak to that vision?
For the case of Sabah and Sarawak, I think I have the opportunity of living in Sarawak for years. I mean, I've started my career with Sarawak Shell in Miri. So I've been staying in Miri, my family in Kuching, and then sometime during the weekend going to Brunei, and then we can see my friends in Sabah. So demography in Sabah still pretty much open for Islam. I mean, they are very tolerant with the other religion and other race as well. So for the discussion on the empowerment of Sharia, whether it should be Kelantan or Terengganu based or nationwide, first we have to understand that the Sharia matters or Islam matters is under the state list, and the federal is pretty much on the empowerment of the Sharia court and so on and so forth. So I mean, it's being debated academically that there are rooms for improvement in our Sharia court and in our Sharia enforcement. So it is just a matter of time to be empowered nationwide.
Nationwide. And do you think the people of Sabah and Sarawak will embrace it?
Something unique about Sabah and Sarawak. They have to be. This could be very 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 sensitive topic for the Sabahan and Sarawakians, and could be not their priority for this time. So I mean the imposition of the Sharia law should be adaptive enough. If the society is not ready or the structure is not ready, it's not to be pushed upfront. But if the opportunity or for dialogue and discussions forum, I mean, we even in PAS or the Kelantan state government or Terengganu state government is more than happy to share the vision and our view on the Sharia empowerment process democratically.
Okay, I'm speaking to Syahir Sulaiman, Head of Strategy for the Youth Wing of Parti Islam Se-Malaysia PAS. We'll be back to look at Sungai Kandis by-election. Stay tuned. BFM 89.9.
You are listening to the BFM Breakfast Grill, brought to you by U Mobile.
BFM 89.9. Welcome back. If you just joined us, I'm Sharad Kutin. My guest on the Breakfast Grill this morning is Syahir Sulaiman, Head of Strategy for the Youth Wing of Parti Islam Se-Malaysia, or PAS, as we all know them to be. You can be part of this conversation by tweeting us at BFM Radio, WhatsApping us at 018-789-8899. Thank you very much to Zaki, Lewis and Munyandi. We're going to get to your questions shortly. But I want to begin Syahir, with the question of Sungai Kandis. It's a by-election coming up shortly. Past Vice President Muhammad Amar Nik Abdullah says the party is not going to campaign for Barisan Nasional in the upcoming by-elections, and this should not be construed as supporting UMNO or Barisan Nasional. Now, past Information Chief Nasruddin Hassan said, alternatively, the party is not standing to ensure that Pakatan Harapan loses. And we also have a statement from PAS Secretary General Taqiyuddin Hassan saying that the reason that PAS is not participating in the Sungai Kandis by-election is because it's still studying the findings of the 14th General Election Postmortem Report. What's the story? Which is it?
The way you put it, pretty much very conflicting kind of view within the PAS leadership about the PRK Sungai Kandis. I think we didn't expect we're going to have very soon, by-election. I mean, people say that our ink in our fingers still visible, and then yet we have a by-election, and then unfortunately balakong as well very soon. I think the stand by PAS is very clear that we are not participating. And if you can recall back, previous weeks, after the Central Committee, PAS Central Committee meeting, the Sekjen Yang Berhormat Datuk Taqiyuddin mentioned that PAS would like to have a two-cornered fight. So that was that is the principle. It should be two-cornered between the government, the ruling party, Pakatan, and the opposition. But the opposition comprised of two big party, UMNO and PAS. And then we can see pretty much after the UMNO election, the voices from the Selangor UMNO is very, very, very vocal and we would see very, very aggressive for them to stand for this by-election. So, and for PAS, we don't have any disadvantage of not contesting because we are still just recently concluded our GE. And then, as per the statement by the Sekjen, we need to really study, undertake the post-mortem. And for me, my personal view, if I were to rationalize the decision by not contesting in the Sungai Kandis, by looking in the future, I mean, there could be more and more by-elections.
Okay, so you mentioned Taqiyuddin's principle, which is to have a straight fight. But this was not the principle that operated for the 14th general election.
Yes.
PAS came in not only as to force three-corner fights, but they also came in with this idea that they were going to be kingmakers. And that was the thing. How did that pan out for PAS, this idea that it would become kingmaker?
The result of the GE pretty much upset PAS mostly in Selangor. We managed to maintain Kelantan and then regain Terengganu and captured quite a number of substantial numbers of seats in Kedah. But we lose and then we can maintain. There are 5 parliament seats in Selangor. Because of that numbers, in totality, PAS managed to gain just below 20. If we were to have, say, 25 or up to 30 MPs, then the kingmaker story is real. Yeah, but the wave of against Najib and YMDB. The wave is pretty much very strong towards the end of the days leading towards the GE, so that somehow overthrown PAS as well.
Okay, let's talk about the effect that PAS had and the voter perception. PAS left the Pakatan and also seemed to align itself with UMNO. Now, on the Sungai Kandis election, just to give some numbers here, PIKAR won about 24,000 votes, just under 24,000 votes. Barisan Nasional won about 11,500, and PAS won 7,500. So, but their combined votes about 19,000. That's still a shortfall of 5,000 votes. I know PAS has said it's not going to campaign, but how do you make sense to the voter of why PAS would allow or inadvertently aid Barisan Nasional in returning? Is it because you believe in the Barisan Nasional agenda? Is you believe in the leadership of Barisan Nasional at this point in time? Or there's something that Pakatan Harapan has done that necessitates PAS opposing them?
We can see that the fence-sitters will be the kingmaker for this by-election.
Do you think there are many fence-sitters? There are 5,000 deficit for Barisan Nasional going into this by-election.
Definitely, because we can see the trend. The number of votes that PAS gained in GE 13 and GE 14. So the connotation is that those fence-sitters that gave their vote for PAS in GE 13 have switched towards Pakatan during the GE 14. But for the case of PRK Sungai Kandis, it's not so much of PAS assisting or give some sort of way for UMNO, but for me, it's a signal to Pakatan that they have to fulfill their promises. And the beauty of democracy is the need for strong opposition in the Dewan Negeri or Dewan Rakyat.
So there's beauty in democracy, but there's also a dark side. Over the last 2 months, there's been quite a bit of a campaign to cast the Pakatan Harapan government as anti-Islam, anti-Malay. And where does PAS stand on this rhetoric? There is a discourse, there was a campaign against the new Attorney General and so on and so forth. That kind of racialized, religious-based rhetoric, where does PAS stand on that?
Okay, I mean, the situation that become more prominent after the GE, I mean, the voices for more freedom, human rights, and then so-called challenging the Islam or the supremacy of the rulers and so on and so forth. And, the moment you start voicing out this kind of views, there will be some retaliation. And the retaliation came from the NGOs, the Muslim, not the political party like PAS and UMNO. So
but many of these NGOs are backed by political parties or are aligned to political parties.
I mean, we are free to support any party, by the way. But I mean, the retaliation came from it could be seen as pretty much civil society kind of dynamic. So where PAS stand for this? I mean, if you refer to the speech by Yang Berhormat President PAS, Datuk Seri Tuan Guru Haji Abdul Hadi Awang, it's very clear that we need to uphold the principle of the Constitution, where Islam is the religion of the Federation, and the religion is freely to be practiced. So, and then we have to respect the so-called social contract of the country. I mean, Malay being the so-called the dominant race, and then I think without politics, I mean, we can live very harmony. I mean, in the office or in schools, I mean, we can just sit side by side with our Chinese or our Indian colleagues. I mean, we can have lunch or we can have dinner with our office mates, which are not Malay. So, I mean, as personally, I mean, people can live in harmony. But the moment you start voicing out, and so-called retaliation will come.
Okay, we'll be back after the news with more on the question of Ketuanan Melayu or Malay dominance with our guest, Syahir Sulaiman, Head of Strategy for the Youth Wing of Parti Islam Se-Malaysia. Stay tuned. BFM 89.9.
You are listening to the BFM Breakfast Grill, brought to you by U-Mobile.
Good morning, I'm Shoaib Kutan, and with me on the Breakfast Grill, which continues, our guest, Syahir Sulaiman, Head of Strategy for the Youth Wing of Parti Islam Se-Malaysia, or PAS. We've had so many questions come in. Does PAS consider the economy or religion more important? What's your position on Zakir Naik? Should investigations be instituted against Nick Abdu over a Range Rover? That's a question. Do you prefer Tok Guru's direction or the President Hadi Awang's? What's your position on child or underage marriage? It just goes on. What are your thoughts on the LGBTQ community, and how would PAS counter Islamophobia among non-Muslims? But I don't think we have enough time to deal with all this. Let's go to a question
that reflects the eagerness of the public, and then mostly the English speaking audience, know more about PAS, and then this is why I take the challenge to be here. I mean, to continue to engage.
It's not a challenge, it's an invitation. It's very comfortable. I think you've been the last half an hour.
My pleasure.
Okay, there's a question from Anonymous, which is not a name, I believe, just a designation. It says, why didn't PAS Kelantan field younger people like you? How powerful, how influential is the youth wing in the party?
I mean, in terms of mobilizing the machinery, I mean, the party rely heavily on the PAS youth. I mean, we have a mix of young ulama, young professionals, and young activists. And we have our own volunteer squad. I mean, Jabatan Amal, the red shirt army of PAS. I mean, whenever we have a crisis or like flood and so on and so forth, I mean, we were the one.
And also very instrumental in the birthday rallies. I remember the Amal unit was there for crowd control, and they did it beautifully.
And the moment policemen see, I mean, the Amal personnel, I mean, it's going to be very peace and controlled rally. So back to your question on Kelantan, why very, very few? And it's not very few, it's very only one candidate from PAS youth actually for parliamentary seats, and then our Yang Berhormat Ustaz Fali Syari for Pasir Mas, and there is no youth candidate for the state seats. I mean, honestly, we have been upset. But that's the unique about Kelantan. I mean, everyone think that they are still young. So previously they are young adults, young excos, and then by the age of 40 plus, they still think that they are young. So the challenge for the rookies, I mean the youngs in Kelantan in particular, is to prove that they are competent and they command the support of the people. So the demography in Kelantan, Terengganu, Kedah, pretty much very, very kampung style. And then you need someone with stature to be the leader. I mean, naturally, natural progression for someone to be the leader, I mean, should have some title and so on and so forth. So, should have a track record. So, and then, I mean, the debate, similar to fresh graduate lah. I mean, you have so many fresh graduate, but the company prefer those who have experience. So similar for Kelantan, it's a challenge for us to be in that position. Yeah.
I want to ask you about the PAS Amanah split. How traumatic was that? And is there some sort of regret among at least the youth wing that you're involved in about that split in PAS, especially now that Amanah is part of the federal government and been successful and seen to be part of the democratic movement in Malaysia, and PAS is outside of it?
It's fair. I mean, in terms of our personal relation, I mean, we are still friends, and they were our friends, and they are remain as our friends, even though they have jumped ship and then they are now in orange color. We are still remain in green color. There's no regret, and then we can see that the uprising of more and more young professionals coming in. I mean, pretty much in Klang Valley. But the one that the new blood coming in, pretty much very, very humble kind of thing. So very respectful of the leaders. So that was the quality that the new breed of young professionals in PAS now. We have the competency, and then we have been guided by the ulama leadership.
Now, this question from Robert, I think, could probably end our conversation this morning. He says, how can you compromise between Ketuanan Melayu and Islam? So Islam, they're inspiring people to join the party, but Ketuanan Melayu is a very secular, ethno-nationalist ideology. How do you make those two things fit together?
The beauty of Islam is fair for all. And then the moment you start embrace into the Islamic teaching, you should be fair to the other believers as well. But the moment you stand or you fight for racial sentiment, there will be some connotation of disadvantages for the other races and so on and so forth. So that's why it's always about Islam being fair to all, and subsequently the Malays in Malaysia being the origins, the Bumiputra, should be given some sort of respect and privilege. Yeah.
But there are a lot of Bumiputra who are not Malay or Muslim.
Yeah. Everything is guided by the federal constitution, and then Muslim or non-Muslim, Malay or non-Malays, Bumi or non-Bumi, should embrace and subscribe to the principle of the federal constitution that has been laid by our forefather.
Thank you very much for being with us this morning.
Thank you, my pleasure.
I've been speaking to Syahir Sulaiman, Head of Strategy for the Youth Wing of Parti Islam Asal Malaysia, or PAS. I'm Sharad Kutan, and this has been The Breakfast Grill on BFM 89.9, the business station.
The Breakfast Grill is brought to you by U Mobile, Frost & Sullivan Malaysia's mobile data service provider of the year.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To find more great interviews, go to bfm.my or find us on iTunes. BFM 89.